welcome to a presentation on the California ballot propositions, brought to you by the League of Women Voters of Ventura County and CAPS TV of Ventura. Hello, I'm David Maron with the League of Women Voters. I'll be your host today as we interview Timm Herdt. Timm is the Sacramento Bureau Chief for the Ventura County Star, and he'll provide us commentary on all of the ballot propositions. Timm, thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here.
Timm, well, why don't we jump in and start with Proposition 19. This is the one that deals with marijuana. Tell us what this is about.
Well, I guess it's one of those only in California, or at least first in California issues that we're used to seeing on the ballot. And this is breaking new ground. It would make California the first state in the nation to legalize the possession by a person 21 years or older of a small amount of marijuana, up to an ounce, and then give cities, each city, its own ability to decide whether to allow the sale of marijuana within its jurisdiction. And if they allow the sale, then they can place whatever regulation they want on it, hours of operation, location of the sales, and then they can place taxes, excise taxes, taxes to cover whatever the city costs are. So it gives cities broad authority to make some decisions about transactions that take place in their communities.
As I understand it, though, there's still federal law that does not legalize marijuana. How do the two work together?
Well, they don't work very well together. The federal law, the Controlled Substances Act, it's still a controlled substance under federal law. We've seen a little bit of the tension between those two things with medical marijuana in California and the other states that have medical marijuana laws. The Obama administration in March said they've got better uses for the Justice Department resources than to go in and prosecute individuals who are doing things that are legal under their own state's laws. However, it's unknown how the federal government under this administration or future administrations might look upon a state law that legalizes marijuana possession and sale.
Let's talk about some of the arguments. On one hand, there's this need to just eliminate all of the money that goes into the criminal work of the Justice Department to fight the gangs and people from Mexico bringing up marijuana. So there's this huge savings, supposedly. On the other hand, it seems like arguments are about people are going to be smoking at work and you can't get rid of them if they're stoned, type of thing. So how do they all play out?
Yeah, well, some of the arguments I think on each side go a little over the edge. For instance, yesterday there was recently there was a hearing in Sacramento. The legislature has to have informational hearings on all the ballot propositions, and there was a member of the representative of the Chamber of Commerce testifying. And she said, well, if this passes, there's nothing employers could do to prevent employees from bringing marijuana to work and using it. And the response to that was, well, if you have a policy against it, you can prohibit it, just like you can prohibit an employee now from bringing alcohol to work or bringing his dog to work. Companies certainly have that discretion. So that's a little crazy. The other thing is the argument on the proponent side that this would make, a major reduction in create savings for law enforcement because they wouldn't have to devote their resources to enforcing marijuana laws. Well, there's a considerable question how much time law enforcement spends now going after small-time users of marijuana. But I think that the critical question on that ground is what would be the impact on illegal drug trafficking, on the cartels, on the people who make a lot of money and on illegal sales of marijuana now. Would a legal market, regulated market, if not put them out of business, put a huge dent in their operations? And I think there's consensus that they would have some effect on it. How much that would be, I don't know. But clearly that's a question people have to think about and use their own intuition and senses on how that might play out.
I sense that Prop 19 is probably going to go down to the wire with voters trying to decide which way they want to go on this. But I want to go and look at who is supporting and who's opposing, because it's sometimes odd. You'll see police chiefs who are wildly in support of it, or people who you think might be supportive are against it. Can you talk about the different sides?
It is. It's all over the map. Even the consortium of medical marijuana dispensary owners have come out against it. One wonders whether that's because they don't want the competition, or whether as they say, it doesn't sufficiently protect those who feel they need marijuana for medical reasons, and whose doctors have written letters to that effect. But yeah, you have the existing law enforcement and every elected official, with the exception, I believe, of a couple of city officials in Oakland, opposed to this. Democrats and Republicans. The mainstream status quo power structure is pretty much universally against this. Both candidates for Attorney General, the active police chiefs and prosecutors. However, there's a significant number of retired police officials and prosecutors and a judge very prominently who say, you know, we really waste a lot of resources going after essentially a victimless crime. People are not threatened by others who smoke pot in the privacy of their homes. So, yeah, and liberals, there are certain very ideological conservatives, libertarian types who think, yeah, the government has no business sticking its nose into whether people use marijuana or not. So it's hard to figure. You see someone or some group what their position might be, because everyone has their own perspective on this one.
One of the other things that I believe voters are looking at is supposedly it'll bring in a great amount of tax revenue because marijuana would now be taxed. You're from Sacramento. Is the sense, though, that this would really help balance the budget because revenues will be flowing in, or is it maybe somewhere in between?
Yeah, I don't think anyone should see it as a panacea. And also one should remember that under the wording of the initiative is that local governments get first crack at the taxing.
I see.
That cities and counties who want to, if they make the decision to allow sales, they would get the first crack at it. However, it does allow the legislature, which would have to regulate some larger issues, large-scale commercialized growing of marijuana. Would also have its shot at some taxes. I think the Board of Equalization has estimated that at a $50 per ounce excise tax, the state could realize a couple $2 billion a year in tax revenues from legal marijuana.
Well, final question then on Prop 19. Is the money about the same that's flowing into the yes and no on Prop 23, or is there a huge imbalance?
There's a fairly significant imbalance, although I believe with the supporters ahead. Although I believe they've raised less than they originally hoped to. But on the no side, there aren't any big moneyed interests who've really kicked in. The couple of like the Narcotics Officers Association, and I noticed they got $10,000 from the beer and wine distributors to oppose it. Again, one wonders about the competition issue. But at this point, it looks as if the supporters will have more money and thus have more advertising and more visibility than the opposition campaign.
Well, I think it'll be a very interesting initiative as we go down to the wire, see how it plays out. So that concludes Proposition 19.